What is up, everybody in YouTube land, and welcome to this episode of From the Mind of an Appliance Technician. I am your friendly neighborhood appliance technician, Chris, and this is C&G Appliance Television. Thank you guys for being here. I sure appreciate everybody who watches me, all like 2 of you, 3 of you. Really appreciate it. You could be so many other places here on YouTube, but you're here having a conversation with me, and I super appreciate that. So thank you very much. Shop announcements. Let's get that out of the way real quick because it's going to be very quick. We're selling the Speed Queen machine. That has a buyer. That is actually Pops is buying that from me. He is taking that machine and turning it on to sell it for himself for a profit. The unspoken deal between him and I, he'll bring me this constant flow of Speed Queen machines, or somewhat constant flow of machines. As he changes things out, he'll haul off a machine, I'll fix it, I'll turn it around, either sell it myself or sell it to him. He buys Speed Queen machines exclusively from me because he knows my work. And he knows that I do good enough work that he can sell these things on for quite a tasty profit, even after what I have in it. So that's what I call a win-win, guys. If you can get in on something like that with, with local appliance techs in your area, if you do something that they're not necessarily willing to do, it's all good, man. It's all love. We help each other out where we can. So I win, he wins. So can't really shake a stick at that. That's what I call the best kind of deal, is when everybody wins. And that's what I shoot for every single day. So we've got a direct drive machine coming in behind that. I'll probably take you guys with it, or with me on it. Excuse me. And I've been to get back into the series of flipping appliances and things like that. Like I did a dryer video several months ago, probably in the summertime, about flipping dryers, or flipping appliances, and I kind of wanted to add to that series a little bit more. So look for that stuff coming down the pipe. Now that we've got that all out of the way, let's just dive into today's topic, guys. First, I wanted to comment on the quality of, let's just use washers as an example, guys, because honestly, I think there's every appliance technician out there who's been in the business a long time, i.e. over 5 years, has got a favorite kind of appliance to work on, and mine happens to be washers. So that's what I use as an example in a lot of things, and I think they're the most reflective of the state of the industry, I guess you could say, these days. It's not going to quite be as evident in a refrigerator because there's less moving parts, there's less you can see, feel, touch, there's less that's tangible to the average person anyway about a refrigerator than there is a washing machine. A washing machine used to be these big hunks of metal that would sit in your laundry room, and they'd just be huge and heavy and loud, and they'd just beat the living snot out of your clothes, and they'd churn the water around. One comes to mind called the Frigidaire Unimatic, which had an agitator that kind of moved up and down in the center of it. And you could overload the crap out of those machines and they'd still produce rollover. And that is an awesome machine as far as wash performance goes. And a lot of people, a lot of my customers ask me, why don't they make machines like that anymore? And the best answer I had ever heard on that was simply this. If you took what it cost to, say, buy a Frigidaire Unimatic in the 50s or 60s when they were new, if you plug the original price, which was I think $700 or $800, now mind you, in the 50s or 60s, okay, if you plug that price in nowadays to an inflation calculator on Google or something like that, and you adjust the 1950s dollars for what it would be today, they will come out as like a $1,500, $2,000 washing machine. They were built a lot better because they were more expensive. They actually took up more of the budget when people were budgeting them in than they do nowadays. And it's largely because appliances were sort of a novelty back in those days. It was 50s, 60s. If you had, you didn't quite deal with the Iceman, but refrigerators were in their infancy, more or less. Like, they didn't have self-defrost. Self-defrost came along later on in the 60s, and things like that. They weren't what we now know as a modern refrigerator. They didn't have as many components in them. So things like that are to blame. And a lot of times, who wants to pay $1,500, $2,000 for a washing machine? I know I sure don't. So basically you're sacrificing quality for price, just like anything else. I mean, if you build something heavier with more material in it that's less efficient, that uses a lot more water, that, everything like that, it's going to end up being more expensive in the short and long term. Okay? Nowadays, yes, you can have one of these older machines for, probably $500-600 fully restored, maybe more than that. I don't know. It depends on what people ask. I don't ask that much for fully restored machines, but anywhere from something that I don't go too far into, that I just kind of refurbish rather than restore, which is pretty much where we got with that 69 Maytag. That didn't really need a full restoration. And I think back in those days, I think the tub seals and everything like that with the older style transmission, the tub seals that were coupled with that older style transmission in the Maytags were built a lot better than some of the more modern dependable care ones that will require a tub seal when you go into them like that. Just a personal observation of those things, from me and my 9 years of experience. So anywho, that's really the big reason why we don't see quality in the machines, is because adjusted for inflation, they're actually cheaper than what they used to be. So just take that into consideration when you're looking for a new washing machine, guys. You pay for quality, and hands down, if you're buying new, Speed Queen all day long. Guys, if you are buying a new washing machine, do yourself a favor. If you are one of my consumers out there, please, 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 I beg you, buy a Speed Queen. And I prefer the TC series over the TR series, but you can look at a TR series if you want. They don't perform as well as the TC series, so just bear that in mind. The one thing that I find customers do not like about the TC series versus the TR series is, number one, the price point. It's a lot more expensive than your TRs. Number two is, with the TRs, you can adjust water level, and people like to still have that kind of control. Even if they don't have that kind of control, they still like to have a button or something they can adjust. Sometimes Whirlpool did the soil level and stuff like that. That was still an AutoSense, kind of AutoSense type of deal. Anyway, all that said, and then of course you have the EPA that comes in and says, you guys have to be this efficient by this date, you have to meet this standard. And I can tell you, as of 3 or 4 years ago, when I was at Whirlpool's new product training up at the range plant over in Tulsa, which is about an hour away from me, I can tell you that the factory was telling us then that they were switching to the new twist tray Sankyo ice maker. Okay? That, if you guys, my LG and Samsung techs out there, you guys know about this crap twist tray ice maker. It's plastic, it breaks all the time, it sucks. There's no two ways around it, it sucks. And Whirlpool did a bang-up job of putting them in their side-by-side units, because the ones that sit in the door, at the top of the door, if you're looking at them and you trace the wire harness down the door, there's a little, they go through the bottom of the hinge, and right where they go underneath the unit, there's a spot that the wires always rub through and kill power to the ice maker. So that's a wonderful freaking thing. They did a bang-up job of even putting this thing into their refrigerators. It's just, And I'm sure there are other manufacturers who are that way. I just happen to know Whirlpool like the back of my hand, and that's one of the issues that I've seen with those things. And it's only the side-by-sides, guys. The French doors are great. I love Whirlpool Maytag French doors. I have a Maytag French door sitting in my kitchen over there. And it's wonderful. I love the French doors. They've got all the problems ironed out. Doesn't matter, single, dual evaporator. Buy those all day long. They're great. But their side-by-sides leave a little bit to be desired. But back onto the Sankyo ice maker. The reason they had to switch to that Sankyo ice maker is because it was using 3 watts too many of electricity. Guys, the EPA was clamping down on these people, on manufacturers, for using 3 watts more than their standard. You know what 3 watts is? It's not even a freaking light bulb. But there has to be adherence to the standards. I get it. Whatever. They're just trying to be busybodies at that point. Is pretty much all they're trying to do. But that is, there's a lot of things like that going on in the industry, guys. Plus the public demanding cheaper machines. So when that happens, you have a recipe for quality to go downhill. So that's all I'm saying. We'll end that subject there, and we'll get on to the subject of side hustles. That's the next order of business, okay? Now that I've kind of spoken about the state of the industry, you guys know my thoughts on that. We're going to get to some side hustle notes, okay? Guys, my guys who are starting out, my technicians who are starting out, who watch me, the best advice I can give you for trying to start learning appliance repair. I get questions all the time from my friends and you know, people that I talk to on social media. They ask me, they say, hey Chris, where do I learn to do what you did? Or my customers, where did you go to school to where did you go to school to learn? And I laugh and I just say there is no school. Guys, I've picked up a lot from Hustle Appliances, okay? I have picked up a ton. And my advice, if I had to start from complete jump, and I was looking at YouTube videos on how to get into appliance repair, okay? I would recommend that you start with one appliance, one type of appliance, okay? Washers, dryers. Those are 2 of the easiest things to learn, okay? Easiest things to learn, easiest things to work on in the appliance industry. Then you could move to, like, you know, I would never sell a used dishwasher myself, but if you want to, you can take a chance. Ranges is what I would move to next. And refrigerators probably the last, because refrigerators involve quite a bit of theory. If you're, like, what I always do when I'm flipping a refrigerator is I'll plug it in my shop in an outlet that I know, because everybody shuts the lights off when they leave, but in an outlet that I know has constant power overnight, and I will run that thing for a week straight in my shop. If there are any problems, they're going to materialize hopefully in a week, and we can get that taken care of, and I can give somebody a quality machine. Because guys, back to the original point that I was making when I began talking about side hustles, you want to make your side hustle a win-win for everybody, okay? You want to do quality work, you want to give somebody a quality appliance, okay? Those are the 2 things you want to do. Now, speaking of customers, okay? If my people out there, my dealers who are looking to be new appliance dealers, okay? That's a big thing, guys. That is a huge thing. But I've worked for the past 9 years for a company that has sold or serviced the appliances that we sell. And they've been doing this since 1993. They've been doing this since long before I came along, okay? So a lot of times you'll get a customer who, okay, when I go out to their house, they'll say, you know, hey, this, like, I'll use an example that I had a little earlier. I've had dishwashers. Let's use an example of a dishwasher, okay? Because I've had this example. A very common problem with KitchenAid, Whirlpool, Maytag dishwashers, especially those three. You'll have, they were made about 3-4 years ago. It's by the way, it is February 13th, 2020. As of this, the making is when the making of this video has occurred. So they're about 3 or 4 years old by this point. 5 years maybe. I don't know when they started. I don't know when they stopped making this pump. But it is the wash pump that is a problem. And if you figure out that that wash pump is getting power during its wash cycle, a lot of times you can take the handle of a screwdriver and knock on it, and it'll start right up. Okay, the pump will start washing, you'll hear water start rolling around in there. And the customer will think you're some kind of magician when you do it. But it may stop in the middle of what it's doing, and it may just go back to having locked up bearings. I would advise checking it to make sure that nothing is blocking it, nothing's blocking the impeller, because those motors don't have much horsepower. You can pretty much grab them and stop them. There's not much power there. It's literally just enough to move water, and that's it. So with that said, it's a very common issue, and in conversation it can pass that, hey, that's a common issue, I see these all the time, we can have a pump to you pretty quick. And in conversation like that, the customer may take it the wrong way and call either you if you run the place, or they'll call whoever runs the place and who sold them the machine if they bought it from your place, and they'll say, hey, you sold me a piece of crap. Why did you sell me a piece of crap when you knew this was wrong? And at that point, all you got to say is, whoa, whoa, whoa. When a car dealership sells cars, do you think they foresee engineering issues with said cars 3, 4, 5 years down the road? No. There is no reason that anyone should suspect that there's going to be issues with that vehicle 3, 4, 5 years down the road, unless it gets abused or something like that. Dishwashers really kind of do their thing. They hang out, they do one thing, they heat up water, they roll it around, and they wash your dishes. Pretty much is all they do. And then they drain the water. So that's their function. That's a dishwasher's function. So when you tell people that that's a common problem, they may take it the wrong way. Okay? And all you do is just go with that car manufacturer thing. Now, it's frustrating. It can get very frustrating because when you're selling appliances, you don't manufacture them. Even when you fix them, you're not the one manufacturing it. So it's really difficult sometimes to look at a customer and say, yeah, this is kind of a common issue, and that's the way it is. I mean, anybody in a technical trade out there can tell you that just because it's a common issue 3, 4, 5 years down the road doesn't necessarily mean that the machine's a piece of junk. It just literally means that it's a common issue, something that nobody could have foreseen. And they, and that's it. That's it. So just tell them, look, do you think that a car dealership just selling you a car knows that that particular car is going to have issues 3 or 4 years down the road with, say, fuel injectors or something like that? No. So with that, I think I'm going to end the episode here. We're approaching the 20-minute mark as usual. I don't want to waste too much of y'all's time. Thank you so much for listening to the ramblings of my brain. I love you guys, and I will catch you guys on the next episode.